I stand frozen in my own doorway, keys dangling from my fingers. Something's wrong. The house feels different today, disturbed. Laughter drifts down from upstairs, then stops abruptly at the sound of my key in the lock. I know that laugh. Lucas, home early from work. Maple rushes toward me, her golden fur a blur. Instead of her usual playful greeting, she whimpers, pressing against my legs with unusual anxiety. I bend down to stroke her head, my hand trembling slightly. "What's wrong, girl?" I whisper. That's when I spotted Lucas's dress shirt draped across the staircase banister. The pale blue one I ironed yesterday morning. And there's something else in the Era perfume. Unfamiliar, yet somehow I know it. My stomach twists into a knot. I take deliberate steps up the stairs, each one heavier than the last. The wood creaks beneath my feet, announcing my ascent. Hushed, urgent whispers drift from our bedroom where the door stands slightly ajar. A woman's voice, then Lucas's, pleading, frantic. My hand pushes the door open before my mind fully processes what I'm about to witness. The hinges groan, a drawn-out note of betrayal. Lucas scrambles off our bed, yanking the sheet around his waist. And there, fumbling with her bra clasp, is Brooke, my sister. Her lipstick smeared, hair disheveled. 9 years younger, and a lifetime more favored. Of all people, my voice barely rises above a whisper. My own sister? Lucas steps forward, one hand extended. "Melissa, this isn't what it looks like." A laugh escapes me, harsh and foreign to my own ears. "Really, Lucas? Because it looks exactly like you're sleeping with my sister in our bed." Brooke doesn't even have the decency to look ashamed. Instead, annoyance flashes across her face, the same expression she wore when we were children, and I interrupted her piano recital practice. "You weren't supposed to be home until 6, she says, as if I'm the one who's intruded. The room spins slightly. I grip the doorframe to steady myself as memories cascade through my mind. 17 years old, clutching my Northwestern scholarship letter. Full ride. The culmination of 4 years of straight A's and part-time jobs. My parents barely glanced at it, too busy preparing for Brooke's dance recital that evening. My wedding day. Mother fussing over Brooke's bridesmaid dress, concerned the pale pink would wash out her complexion. "Melissa can handle herself," she'd said when the photographer called for the mother-daughter photos. "Let's make sure Brooke's hair is perfect first." 3 months ago, Brooke showing up at our doorstep, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "The big city chewed me up," she'd cried. "I just need somewhere to stay temporarily." Lucas had been irritated at first. Then his irritation transformed into something else, something I'd noticed but dismissed. I take a deep breath and walk out, my legs carrying me downstairs automatically. I sink onto our living room couch, the one we picked out together last spring. Lucas and Brooke follow 20 minutes later, dressed now, their guilty expressions practiced and hollow. "We need to talk," Lucas begins, perching on the edge of the coffee table. "I've been feeling neglected, Melissa. You're always working, building your career while I—" "How long?" I interrupt. They exchange a look that confirms everything. 6 weeks, Brooke admits. Almost since the day she moved in. While I stayed late at the office to finish the accessibility project, while I paid for groceries that fed them both. "I think there's something else you should know," Brooke says, her hand drifting to her stomach in a gesture so deliberate it can only be rehearsed. "I'm pregnant, and it's Lucas's." The words hit me like physical blows. This isn't a mistake, not a moment of weakness. This is an ongoing betrayal, a calculated deception. "Get out," I whisper, then louder. "Get out of my house, both of you." "Melissa, be reasonable," Lucas starts. "I'll be staying with Mom and Dad until you calm down," Brooke announces, as if she's doing me a favor. I stand, walk to our bedroom, and pull out an overnight bag. With mechanical precision, I pack essentials, clothes, toiletries, laptop. When I return downstairs, Lucas hovers in the hallway. "Where are you going?" he demands. "This is your home too." Not anymore, I say, calling Maple to my side. I drive to my parents' house seeking comfort, sanctuary. Instead, I find another ambush waiting. Mom opens the door, lips pursed in disapproval. What did you do to drive him away, Melissa? Dad sits in his recliner, newspaper lowered just enough to peer at me over the edge. These things happen in marriages, he says with a dismissive wave. The realization crashes down. They already know. Brooke called them first. The story has been spun, and somehow, impossibly, I'm the villain. You need to be the bigger person now, Mom says, her hand on my shoulder feeling like lead. Family stands together through everything. Standing in my childhood home, surrounded by the people who should love me most, I've never felt more alone. Divorce papers scattered across the kitchen counter of my temporary apartment mock me with their cold, legal language. Irreconcilable differences. Such a bland phrase for finding your husband in bed with your sister. My phone lights up for the 5th time this hour. Mother again. I let it go to voicemail, knowing exactly what's coming. 3 minutes later, the notification appears. I press play, bracing myself. Melissa, it's Mom. Her voice carries that familiar note of disappointment. Brooke had some complications yesterday. The doctor says stress isn't good for the baby. A deliberate pause. She needs her sister right now, call me back. I delete the message and pick up a pen to initial another page. My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. Family stands together through everything. Remember what we taught you. What they taught me. I laugh. The sound hollow in the empty apartment. They taught me to smile when overlooked, to expect less, to make room for Brooke's needs. Always Brooke. Maple nudges my hand with her wet nose, sensing my distress. At least I have her. It's okay, girl, I whisper, scratching behind her ears. We're okay. My laptop pings with a notification. Against my better judgment, I click on it. A social media update. My cousin Jen has tagged me in a photo. My finger hovers over the mouse, hesitating before clicking. The image loads, punching the air from my lungs. Lucas and Brooke, his arm around her expanding waistline. My mother beaming beside them, holding up a tiny yellow onesie. The caption reads, "So excited for this new chapter. Family is everything." 43 likes. 6 congratulatory comments. Posted 3 hours ago in parents' living room. I slam my laptop shut and head to work. The office has become my sanctuary, the one place where life makes sense. Lines of code and user interfaces don't lie or manipulate. They simply work or they don't. I focus on my monitor, adding accessibility features to a client's website. My fingers fly across the keyboard, building digital pathways that anyone can navigate, regardless of their limitations. If only human relationships were as straightforward. Melissa. My coworker Jim's voice breaks my concentration. There's someone asking for you at reception. She seems upset. I know who it is before I reach the lobby. Mother stands there in her church cardigan, tissues clutched in her hand. Her eyes are red-rimmed, but I recognize the performance. I've seen it at parent-teacher conferences when I was difficult, at family gatherings when I embarrassed them by not playing along. What are you doing here? I keep my voice low, aware of receptionist Kathy watching with undisguised interest. You won't answer my calls. Mother dabs at dry eyes. I had no choice. I'm working, Mom. This isn't appropriate. She raises her voice slightly, ensuring others can hear. Nothing about how you're behaving is appropriate. Your sister is carrying your niece or nephew while you hide away. Heads turn, my cheeks burn. Let's talk outside, I say, guiding her toward the door. She yanks her arm away. No. Everyone should know what kind of person abandons her family. Her voice rises. They can't afford the baby expenses. You have 2 spare bedrooms in that house. My boss emerges from his office, frowning. You expect me to house the man who cheated on me and the sister who betrayed me? My voice shakes despite my efforts. Family forgives, she shouts, mascara now legitimately streaking as real tears begin. You've always been selfish, Melissa, always thinking about yourself. Security appears, summoned by Kathy's discreet call. Ma'am, you need to leave, says the guard, a kind-faced man named Daryl. Do you know what she's doing to her family? Mother clutches at his arm. Her sister is pregnant. Yes, with my husband's baby, I say quietly. Mother's face contorts. Family obligations come before pride. As Daryl escorts her out, she twists to face the now silent office. She'd rather let her sister struggle than fulfill her family obligations. The door closes behind them. I stand frozen until a hand touches my shoulder. My office, says my boss Richard. Take your time. Miss Alvarez, my attorney, adjusts her glasses as she reviews the security footage from my office. This is textbook harassment, she says, her dark eyes sharp with indignation. We can use this if they escalate further. They will, I say with certainty born from a lifetime of experience. My phone pings with an email from Richard. Your position here is secure. Take whatever time you need. Legal has been notified about today's incident. For the first time in weeks, I feel something like relief. A text appears from Tara, a designer I've worked with but barely know. Lunch tomorrow? I make a mean grilled cheese and know a thing or two about toxic families. I hesitate, then type back, yes, thank you. That night, an email from Aunt Karen arrives, subject line, your parents' financial situation. Melissa dear, I've always thought of you as the sensible one. Your parents might lose their home helping Brooke and Lucas. Your father's retirement account can only stretch so far. I know you're hurt, but surely you don't want your parents homeless at their age. I close my eyes, remembering the new car in their driveway last month, the cruise they booked for fall. Opening Facebook, I find 3 posts from relatives I see once a year at Christmas, all variations on a theme. Family above all. Some people need to examine their priorities. So sad when people hold grudges. Anonymous comments have appeared on my professional profile questioning my reliability and teamwork. The pattern is clear, they're trying to damage my career, my reputation. Make me so desperate I'll give in. I look at the calendar, the 16th of April, my birthday. No calls from family, just demands disguised as concern. Old photo albums sit in a box by my bed. I flip through them, seeing the pattern for the first time. Family photos where I stand slightly apart. Achievements unacknowledged, while Brooke's smallest efforts earn celebration. My email pings. Lucas. Mel, I know you're angry, but this isn't about us anymore. The baby needs stability. We're struggling to make rent. You're living alone while we're cramped at your parents'. Be reasonable. You always were stubborn and unforgiving. Maybe if you'd been more attentive as a wife, none of this would have happened. My finger hovers over block contact. Then, with a clarity I've never felt before, I press it. One by one, I block every family member who's participated in this campaign. For the first time in my life, I choose myself. The manila envelope sits on my desk like a ticking bomb. My coworker Jen placed it there with concerned eyes, whispering, "It was hand-delivered." The return address confirms what my hammering heart already suspects: Hartwell and Associates, Lucas's attorney. I slide my finger under the seal, the paper slicing a thin cut. A drop of blood wells, bidding for what comes next. Inside, legal documents spill out with their cold, clinical language. Plaintiff Lucas Blake seeks damages for emotional distress and reputation damage against defendant Melissa Blake. My eyes catch phrases throughout the complaint: willful abandonment, malicious interference with business relationships, reckless disregard causing pregnancy complications. Each accusation lands like a physical blow. A handwritten note flutters out, Mom's distinctive cursive. You can avoid all this by simply helping them. Why make everyone suffer through a court battle? The fluorescent lights suddenly seem too bright. My hands shake as I gather the papers, sliding them back into the envelope. 10 minutes later, I'm walking into Miss Beeplope. Alvarez's law office, the weight of the documents heavy in my bag. Her office smells of lemon polish and old books. Dark wood paneling lines the walls, diplomas and certifications displayed without ostentation. Miss Alvarez herself sits behind a substantial desk, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a sleek bun. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, soften slightly when she sees my face. "They're suing me," I say, placing the envelope on her desk. Miss Alvarez reviews the documents, her expression revealing nothing. When she looks up, I expect pity. Instead, I see calculation, the look of a chess player seeing 3 moves ahead. "What do you want to do?" she asks. The question catches me off guard. My entire life, decisions were made around me, for me, despite me. What I wanted rarely factored in. "I've been silent my whole life," I say, my voice growing stronger with each word. "I won't be silent about this." Miss Alvarez nods, a hint of approval in her eyes. Then we build our case. The next 3 weeks become a blur of documentation. Every cruel text from Lucas, every manipulative voicemail from my mother, every public social media post from Brooke painting me as the villain, all captured, dated, organized, Miss Alvarez's paralegal, a young man with kind eyes and ruthless efficiency, helps me reconstruct the timeline. Financial records reveal the most damning evidence. Lucas had been systematically draining our joint savings for months before the affair came to light. Credit card statements showed dinners, hotel bookings, jewelry purchases, all while I worked overtime on the accessibility project that kept me at the office late. "Look at this," Miss Alvarez points to a transaction from February. "This weekend getaway was booked 2 days after Brooke moved in. The betrayal wasn't spontaneous, it was calculated from the beginning. Support arrives from unexpected quarters. My neighbor, Mrs. Castillo, provides a notarized statement confirming that Brooke's car frequently stayed overnight at our house when I traveled for work months before I discovered the affair. 3 of Lucas's former employees come forward, revealing he'd been neglecting the business, taking extended lunches, closing the shop early. The most surprising ally appears on a rainy Tuesday, Brooke's former roommate from New York. "I'm Danny," she says, shaking my hand firmly in Miss Alvarez's conference room. "Brooke screwed me over too, took off owing 3 months' rent and trashed my reputation with our friend group." Danny's testimony dismantles Brooke's claim of being a helpless victim of big city cruelty. The evidence mounts, each piece reinforcing what I'd suspected. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't overreacting. I'd been methodically manipulated by the people I trusted most. The morning of the hearing arrives with unexpected calm. I dress carefully, charcoal pencil skirt, ivory blouse, my grandmother's simple pearl earrings. Not flashy, nothing that could be interpreted as vindictive or attention-seeking. In the courthouse corridor, I spot them huddled together, Lucas, Brooke, Mom, Dada, unified front. Brooke's hand rests protectively on her slightly swollen belly, a calculated gesture. They expect me to crumble at the sight, to seek reconciliation rather than face them in court. Instead, I walk past with my chin up, Miss Alvarez beside me. Their confidence visibly falters. Lucas tugs at his collar. Dad's eyes dart away when I meet his gaze. Only Brooke maintains her entitled glare, though it wavers when Miss Alvarez gives her a cool once-over. Inside the courtroom, their attorney presents their case with practiced indignation, painting me as a jealous, vindictive woman who abandoned her family in their time of need. Brooke takes the stand, her voice trembling with practiced emotion as she describes the high-risk pregnancy complications my harassment supposedly caused. Miss Alvarez rises when our turn comes. With methodical precision, she dismantles their narrative. Medical records from Brooke's own doctor contradict her claims of pregnancy complications. Security footage shows my mother's workplace ambush. Financial records expose Lucas's misappropriation of our joint funds. The judge's expression shifts from professional neutrality to growing disbelief as the evidence mounts. When Miss Alvarez presents the documented timeline of social media posts orchestrated by my family-coordinated character assassination, disguised as Concerned, the judge removes her glasses, pinching the bridge of her nose. Your Honor, Miss Alvarez concludes, this isn't a case about emotional distress. This is a textbook example of emotional manipulation and financial exploitation, followed by an attempt to use this court to continue that exploitation. My family's attorney attempts rebuttal, but his arguments sound hollow against the mountain of evidence. I watch my parents' faces as they finally grasp what's happening. This isn't going their way. Dad's complexion has gone ashen. Mom keeps glancing at Brooke, whose hand now clutches Lucas's arm with white knuckles. The judge clears her throat, replacing her glasses with deliberate movements. I've heard enough, she says, her voice carrying the weight of judgment. This court will not be weaponized for emotional manipulation. I sit perfectly still, hardly breathing as she continues. Years of being overlooked, dismissed, and manipulated have prepared me for the worst. But for once, the truth is plainly visible to everyone in the room. The plaintiff's claims are dismissed with prejudice, the judge states firmly. Furthermore, I'm ordering the plaintiffs to pay the defendant's court costs in full. The gavel comes down with a crack that echoes through the suddenly silent courtroom. My family's faces register the impossible they've lost. For perhaps the first time in my life, they are merely seeing me and realizing too late that they severely underestimated the quiet daughter they'd always overlooked. The courtroom falls silent as Judge Hernandez leans forward, her silver-rimmed glasses catching the fluorescent light. Her stern expression reveals nothing as she surveys the room. I grip the edge of the table, my knuckles white. This court, she begins, each word deliberate and weighted, will not be weaponized for emotional manipulation. My breath catches. Beside me, Miss Alvarez's posture remains perfect, but I catch the slight twitch at the corner of her mouth. The claims against Melissa Blake are dismissed in their entirety. The judge's gavel cracks against wood. Furthermore, plaintiffs Lucas Morgan and Brooke Blake will pay all court costs totaling $8,000. Across the aisle, Brooke's mouth falls open. Lucas slumps forward, hands covering his face. Behind them, Mom clutches Dad's arm, her expression frozen in disbelief. They never expected to lose. We won, Miss Alvarez whispers, her professional composure intact, save for the gleam in her dark eyes. But victory feels different than I imagined. Not elation, just quiet confirmation that sometimes justice does prevail. My phone buzzes nonstop that evening. I place it face down on my apartment counter and pour a glass of Merlot. Maple nudges my leg, sensing my unease. It's okay, girl, I murmur, scratching behind her one floppy ear. When I finally check the messages, they spill out like poison. Mom's voicemail. Melissa, you've always been so stubborn. This isn't what your father and I raised you to be. Call me back. Dad's text. You've destroyed this family. I hope you're satisfied. Brooke's Facebook post already has 17 comments. Some people have so much influence they can buy a judge, corrupt justice, family betrayal. Lucas's message arrives last. This isn't over, Melissa. You think you've won? You've just started a war. I forward each communication to Miss Alvarez without responding. She calls within minutes. Document everything, she advises. Don't engage with any of them directly. I follow her counsel precisely. My response to each family member is identical, a carefully crafted paragraph, reviewed by Miss Alvarez, stating my desire for no further contact. Professional. Distant. Final. The cease and desist letters go out the next morning. Miss Alvarez suggested certified mail so they can't claim they never received them. My only public statement appears beneath Brooke's post. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this difficult time. The court records speak for themselves. 3 days later, I call a real estate agent. The for sale sign gleams in my front yard, catching morning light. I sip coffee on the porch, watching my old neighborhood wake up. Mrs. Patterson from across the street gives a tentative wave. Last month, she wouldn't make eye contact. Word travels fast in Denver. Lucas's auto shop voicemail now directs customers to a competitor across town. His business partner bought him out at a loss, according to neighborhood gossip. Apparently, skilled mechanics don't appreciate bosses who abandon the shop for afternoon trysts and court appearances. Pastor Mike from my parents' church calls unexpectedly. "We've missed seeing your folks on Sundays," he says, his voice gentle. "Is everything all right with them?" I tell him only that we've had a family disagreement. He doesn't press, but his careful phrasing tells me he's heard enough. Brooke's baby shower invitation circulates on social media. Taylor, my colleague who attended high school with her, shows me the photos afterward: a half-empty living room, elaborate decorations, and Brooke's tight smile as she opens gifts. Mom hovers nearby, refilling punch cups nobody requested. I feel nothing, not satisfaction, not even anger anymore. The consequences I never sought unfold on their own, a natural tide I neither control nor resist. Seattle, Miss Alvarez Deanna, now that we're having lunch as friends rather than client and attorney, raises her eyebrows. Promotion to UX design director. I smile, slicing into my salmon. They've wanted me to lead their accessibility division for months. And the house? Sold yesterday, $15,000 above asking. She raises her glass in a toast. To new beginnings. That evening, I wrap carefully chosen gifts. For Diana, a first edition of her favorite mystery novel. For Taylor and the team, gift cards to the art supply store they love. For Mrs. Patterson, who eventually told me she'd seen Brooke arriving at my house for months before I discovered the affair, a potted orchid. My farewell dinner feels like a revelation. 8 people gather at my favorite restaurant, none related by blood, all connected by something deeper. Loyalty freely given, not demanded as a birthright. I drive through the neighborhood one last time before heading north. Past Lucas's shop with its new signage. Past my parents' church. Past the park where Brooke once pushed me off the swings and claimed I fell. I feel only lightness, like setting down a burden I never should have carried. Maple sits alert in the passenger seat, nose twitching at the passing scenery. She doesn't look back either. Neither of us needs to. I spot him before he sees me. Dad leans against a light post outside my office building, his shoulders hunched under his worn camel coat, the same one he's had since I was in high school. My steps falter, coffee sloshing against the lid of my cup. 8 months since I left Denver. 8 months of silence and healing in Seattle's cool embrace. And now this. His face has aged a decade in less than a year. Deep lines bracket his mouth. His hair has gone from salt and pepper to nearly white. He straightens when he spots me, his eyes lighting with recognition, then something else: determination. Melissa. He says my name like a declaration. My heart hammers against my ribs, but my voice remains steady. How did you find me? Your old boss in Denver. I said it was a family emergency. His eyes dart around the bustling street. Can we talk? I consider the dozen ways I could refuse him, could walk past, could call security, could simply say no, but curiosity mingles with my caution. What desperate move brings him 700 miles from home? Pike Place Cafe. Around the corner. I nod in its direction. Public place. 20 minutes, then I need to get back to work. The cafe buzzes with lunchtime energy. I choose a table near the center, where baristas and customers create a buffer of witnesses. Dad arrives 5 minutes later, removing his coat to reveal a sweater that hangs loose on his frame. He's lost weight. Coffee? I ask, already signaling to the server. He nods, hands fidgeting with a paper napkin. How are you? His voice holds an uncharacteristic hesitancy. Good. I offer nothing more. No opening for him to slip through. His coffee arrives. He wraps weathered hands around the mug but doesn't drink. Your mother misses you. I take a slow sip from my own cup. Wait. She cries herself to sleep most nights. He continues when I don't respond. This separation, it's killing her. Is that why you came? To tell me Mom misses me? His eyes shift away, then back. Brooke and Lucas are struggling with the baby. Colic, the doctors say. She hardly sleeps. I'm sorry to hear that. The words come out flat, stripped of the sympathy they might once have carried. Lucas lost the shop. Dad leans forward, voice dropping. Bank foreclosed 2 months ago. Too many missed payments during everything. The final piece clicks into place. You need money. He flinches as if I've struck him. It's not about money. It's about family standing together through hard times. But you do need money. His jaw tightens, the same expression he wore when I questioned his authority as a teenager. There are expenses, medical bills, the baby. Your mother and I had to refinance the house to help them. I nod, waiting for what comes next. He pulls out his phone, taps the screen a few times, then slides it across the table. An email is open, addressed to me. The subject line reads, Family Dissolution. My eyes catch phrases in the body. Formally sever our relationship. Irreconcilable differences. No longer consider yourself our daughter. If you don't help, we're officially cutting ties with you, he says, watching my face for signs of distress. Your mother and I drafted this together. I read the email twice, feeling the weight of what would have crushed me a year ago. Now I only feel a strange lightness. You're assuming this is a threat, not a relief. His eyes widen. I stand slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. Several nearby patrons glance our way. I tower over my seated father, drawing myself to my full height for perhaps the first time in his presence. I didn't lose a family, I say, my voice clear enough that a couple at the next table pauses mid-conversation. I lost people who never treated me like family. Melissa, when I got my scholarship to Northwestern, you and Mom missed the ceremony for Brooke's dance recital. At my wedding, Mom spent more time fixing Brooke's dress than looking at mine. For 36 years, I've been the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who gets overlooked because I handle everything myself. His face pales. That's not true. When Brooke slept with my husband in my bed and got pregnant, you told me to be the bigger person. When I needed support, you blamed me. Each word falls like a stone, precise and unyielding. And now you track me down across state lines because you need my money? Dad's manipulation crumbles visibly, his shoulders sagging, eyes darting to others watching our confrontation. He hadn't expected an audience to his failure. You can send that email, I say, gathering my purse. But be honest about why you're sending it. Not because I failed as a daughter, but because I finally stopped letting you treat me like I don't matter. I walk away without looking back, my steps lighter with each foot of distance I put between us. Your mother is sick. His desperate voice follows me. I pause at the door, turn slightly. Hope she gets better. Goodbye, Dad. Outside, Seattle's familiar drizzle kisses my face. I pull out my phone and type a quick message. Miss Alvarez. Father found me at work. May need restraining order paperwork. Will call this afternoon. As I walk back toward my office, a weight lifts from my shoulders, the final burden I didn't know I still carried. For the first time since I found Lucas and Brooke in my bedroom, I feel truly free. Not because I've won some victory against my family, but because I've finally stopped fighting for their approval at all. Sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long rectangles of gold across polished hardwood. I trace my fingers along the granite countertop, still marveling that this space belongs to me. 12 stories up, Lake Union stretches blue and vast, dotted with sailboats that look like toys from this height. My phone buzzes with a calendar reminder. Design team meeting, 10:30. The screen displays my title beneath it, UX Design Director. The promotion came through 3 months ago, after my accessibility project for visually impaired users won an industry award. Maple lifts her head from her sun-warmed spot by the windows, thumping her tail against the floor. Unlike our cramped rental during those first desperate months in Seattle, this apartment gives her room to stretch, to breathe. Like me. Just one more coffee, girl, I tell her, reaching for my Seattle Skyline mug. On the refrigerator, magnets hold photos from last month's hiking trip to Mount Rainier, me, face sunburned and laughing between Diane from accounting and Tara from legal. Friends who know nothing of the woman I used to be, who like me for reasons that have nothing to do with obligation. My laptop chimes with an incoming email. The subject line reads, "Thought you should see this." A former colleague from Denver, one of the few who still occasionally checks in. I hesitate before clicking. Inside, a link to the Denver Post business section. Lucas Blake, formerly owner of Blake's Custom Automotive, now working as a standard mechanic at a franchise chain. The article mentions financial difficulties following family challenges. I closed the laptop without finishing the article. Last week brought news of my parents' house listing downsizing mentioned in the realtor's description. 2 months ago, an acquaintance mentioned seeing Brooke struggling with a stroller at the grocery store. No sign of Lucas with her. I should feel something triumph, perhaps. Vindication. Instead, a quiet compassion rises, then settles. Their lives continue without me, as mine continues without them. The difference is, I'm thriving. On my bookshelf sits Dr. Merriam's book on family dynamics, dog-eared and highlighted. Tuesday evenings still find me in her office, unpacking decades of patterns I never recognized until they shattered around me. Boundaries aren't walls, she'd said in our first session. They're the foundation that lets you build something new. The something new sits in a notebook beside my bed, a list titled Achievements that I add to weekly, no matter how small the victory. Learning to celebrate myself without external validation was the hardest lesson and the most necessary. My phone buzzes again. A different notification, the support group I joined 6 months ago, now one I help facilitate. 23 members, all learning to recognize manipulation, to value themselves above toxic relationships. Some still struggle with the concept that family can be chosen, built rather than inherited. On my counter sits a wrapped package tied with yellow ribbon. A mobile of handcrafted stars from nursery. Her baby shower invitation arrived last week, the first I've attended since Brooke's hastily organized event I never received an invitation to. This one feels different, genuine joy for a friend embarking on motherhood, untainted by manipulation or guilt. The weekend volunteer schedule for the women's shelter hangs on my refrigerator, teaching women to recognize the subtle signs I missed for years. Last month, Maria slipped a note into my hand before leaving for her new apartment. "You showed me I deserve better. You changed my life." I changed my own life first. The sunset paints Seattle's skyline in amber and rose as I step onto my balcony. My phone lights up with a text from Tara. "Dinner at 7? That new Thai place opened." Maple presses against my leg, her warmth steady and true. I rest my hand on her head, feeling the solid connection between us. Sometimes the most courageous thing isn't staying, it's knowing when to walk away. I tap a quick response to Tara, smiling as I watch the horizon glow.